I'm remembering once on retreat, someone said they observed that silence is consciousness. And when you heard that, you rang your bell.
Mm.
So, right at this moment, it feels like nothing needs to be added to it. And so there's no problem from this side that silence is consciousness. It's it's just everything that appears in it, I have a bit of an issue with. It's like the throne of witness consciousness is somehow slippery. So with your help and everyone else's help, it's easy to sort of, assume the position, if you will. But some mornings, while sitting quietly, like sort of metaphorically find myself sort of wiggling around on the ground, not exactly sitting quietly on the throne of witness consciousness. So just an observation. I don't know that that needs to be fixed, but I'm very happy to hear anything you have to say, even if it's nothing.
Well, how would you go about fixing it? And who would you take yourself to be while the fixing was attempted? And would that be just more sliding?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Hmm.
Rather than just let it be as it is?
Hmm.
I mean, just the fact of this remembering of the possibility of letting things be as they are is such immense grace.
Hmm.
And the thought that things could be somehow other than they are is actually quite funny. It's so convincing, seductive. This notion that this moment somehow can be other than it is. And the immense yet futile attempts to change it. It's the stuff of such needless suffering for somehow the suchness of this moment to be other than it is. And there's enough suffering. I wouldn't call it needful suffering, but suffering inherent in being a human being, that we needn't add needless suffering on top of that, unless we are a glutton for punishment. We often use that word surrender, this giving over to this simple acceptance for what is. And because this surrender is so important, we are given ample reminders, opportunities to simply let go into this moment. And sometimes so much struggle precedes the surrender. Even the remembering of the word surrender is enough, or the two words let go are enough. Or the simple words of gratitude for just this moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you can recognize the bliss of stillness and say thank you, thank you, thank you. And also you could recognize the dramatic thrill of the slipping and sliding away and say equally, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That one's a little harder.
To find your way to thank you?
Well, it's like, yes. Yeah. Like, we're using the metaphor of slipping and sliding. It's sort of getting caught up in the mind stream again.
As
Old habit.
as if that's not supposed to be.
Yeah, right.
In your rule book.
Right.
It is. Was there something else?
No, just thank you. Thank you.
Hanuman, I do have a comment to make about slip sliding.
Say that word?
Slipping and sliding, which is what you were talking about toward the end of your conversation. Slipping and sliding, into different frames of mind, thinking that one's more correct than the other, and making a judgment about it, and thinking that we're not quite up to snuff because we're still engaged in all these habits of mind or whatever. But when you talked about slip sliding, it's like I feel like that's what I'm much more engaged in at this point, is I think the disidentification with the ego, as it were, is helping with the terrain becoming a little more slippery. And with that is an inability to hold on to old things and give them the credibility or the importance that I once did. And this slipping and sliding is really important. It's become more important for me in that as I imagine myself, leaving my body, I've gone through various kind of, what would you call it? Orchestrations of that, or that's not the word, but something like that. And I just feel like letting go at that moment where there's no turning around point. Am I making any sense? There's no place to turn around. In other words, the process of dying, as it were, is happening, and it's happening I would imagine to a large degree in the silence, where we don't have an opportunity to actually, debate what's going on, protest, object, or welcome even. It's just happening. But what you said about being in gratitude really for each moment, each moment of this waking life, but just in each moment, including those in which we have no control, really was important for me to hear. And I hope I didn't confuse the heck out of everyone with my explanation.
I mean, really and truly, I certainly know what you mean. But the fact of it is, we never have control of anything ever, regardless of how convincing the contrary is. For when you investigate, there's no one to be found who wields that control. It appears that I am the controller, this me, this egoic, separate individual, body, mind guy. But when one stops and investigates and looks to see if that one really exists, or does that one only or simply exist as an appearance, an apparition, one can see and confirm for one's own self that that apparent controller is simply an appearance. And there's somehow, I like to say, some unseen hand that is that control central. But that's just giving it a kind of name and form, this unseen hand. But you know what I mean. Yeah.
Nice. So I liked when you said this apparition, the apparent one. So does that realization take you into the moment and gratitude, or?
Well, you could have this realization right here, right now, and see where it takes you, if anywhere. And who is it you're referring to that's taken someplace? At that point of seeing things clearly.
Right. There is no clearly.
Well, the clearly is seeing that the one who's potentially taken somewhere is the very one who was just realized not to exist in truth, but resurrected once again. A few words later, within the very same sentence. So you're seeing, hopefully, that this character you habitually take yourself to be, sitting at control central, doesn't in truth exist, only an apparent one.
Well, on some relative level, this is very a big relief.
It's a big relief to see this again and again, and to confirm the truth of the truth for one's own self, to see directly through the sheer act of looking and nothing more.
Mm-hmm. So that's really what vigilance is, then.
Kind of focused,
Remembering
of your own being. You're at the heart of vigilance. You're at the heart of meditating. It's you. It's your nature. Is that vigilance? Your nature is meditating. These are variants of words like awareness, consciousness, beingness, presence. Vigilance speaks in part to a kind of present alertness.
I like that in the part of meditation. That seems right.
You are the meditating.
Mm-hmm.
That's your nature.
And are we the one dreaming?
Well, I would say more it's a happening than a doing. But meditation, it has a kind of ritualistic and formality to it. In that, for example, we bring these bodies over to those cushions and sit down, and then the essence of any practice is what is at the heart of attention. What is it that's being attended to? That is the meditation practice. Sometimes it's the breath, sometimes it's a mantra, sometimes it's the sound current or the light. There's some object in the practice on whence attention is put. Well, the attention that's put, attention like vigilance, all are referent to this that is at the heart of our own nature, consciousness, awareness. So I say that so your nature is that there's not a separate individual character who is now the meditator. It's more precise to say that you are the meditating, and the meditator in truth doesn't exist. You see it? Yeah. So I used to be fond of saying it. You would think that the first part of any meditation practice we're given as beginning our way on the spiritual path is this question, who is the meditator? Rather than just carrying forward with the practice without ever having that inquiry be the very first step. For the master's teaching, in a way, you could say it's also the final step.
Thank you.
Always happy to see you, sister.
Thank you.